Okay, well, I think people want me to talk a little bit too about what's a bass player in a thrash band doing with a big swing band, big rock and swing band. Um, I grew up listening to the radio when I was, I don't know, whatever, 13, 14, 15 years old, something like that. All we had was, there was FM radio, really wasn't much. It was AM radio. And on AM radio, they played, the big hits of the day, which were the ones that I gravitated to were Frankie Valli, Neil Diamond, who I still love. Great songs. But a lot of those 70s songs had some of that rock and roll feel to them. But I was always a fan of, Elvis, Jerry Lee Lewis, any kind of music like that was kind of jumping, electric music, Fats Domino. I love Fats Domino too. I make sure I always mention him as much as I can. I don't think he gets the credit. You hear Jerry Lee Lewis and a lot of the other big rock and roll guys, Chuck Berry, but they don't mention Fats Domino a lot. And I just think he had, God, his songs and his melodies and the stuff that he just had another gear that the other guys didn't have. Every time I listen back to those records, I'm like, damn. And so I always loved that kind of stuff too. And my dad was a huge Sinatra fan. I think it's the law. If you're Italian, you have to be a big Sinatra fan. That was, my dad loved that, and he would play that stuff. And I come from a big Italian household, so a lot of, my uncles would be listening to that stuff. That kind of music was on, Tony Bennett would be on. These are all, Italian guys. Tony Bennett, Sinatra, Bobby Darin. Bobby Darin I probably love even more than Sinatra. I've been just really, really enjoying a lot of his stuff, especially lately. But so there was always that kind of mix of those kinds of things that I had growing up that I think kind of got into my DNA. And then, probably around 15, I discovered Kiss and Black Sabbath. And so that stuff was just put on the back shelf for probably 35 years. I would say probably from the time I was 15 till the time I was in my 40s, I did not buy or listen to any kind of music other than metal. Even when the grunge movement came in, I didn't have any of those records. I didn't listen to any of that. Not much of the punk stuff that I think was very great, except for Green Day. So it was like all metal, totally immersed and involved with that for a lot of years.